So I don't even remember the first time I heard of Bitcoin, but I know that I was focused on kind of saving my money and growing my income the traditional routes. I really wasn't interested in kind of high risk investments, and that's definitely what I saw Bitcoin as. But obviously I kept hearing about Bitcoin in the news as the price kept going up, and I think it was January 2018, I thought, right, I should just put a tiny bit of money into crypto just in case. And at the time Bitcoin was around $15,000, and I thought there's no way it's going to go up significantly from there. I thought, 20k or something might be the highest, and it might drop as well. I'm going to be smart, I'm going to get a different cryptocurrency because I was scared of Bitcoin either kind of staying the same or going down. Without doing any research, I just picked Ripple. I bought some XRP, but I didn't even really buy it. I bought a derivative. It was through this terrible trading platform. Long story short, the £200 I invested gradually just went down to nothing because of the fees associated with this account that I had. So I lost all of the little investment that I'd put into crypto so far, and then I watched as Bitcoin went down and down and down and stayed down for years, and I thought, phew, I'm glad I didn't buy any Bitcoin back in 2018. However, of course, if I had taken that money and put it into Bitcoin, by today it would have pretty much quadrupled. So clearly I should have trusted in Bitcoin, but hindsight is 2020. So the reason I was scared of Bitcoin was I thought it couldn't possibly grow any bigger. I thought it was overhyped, I thought it was overpriced, and I just didn't understand the technology. That was the main thing. I just thought of it as a way that you could speculate and make some money by doubling your money and selling it back into fiat currency. So because I didn't learn about it, I didn't know how to buy it without having lots of fees, and I didn't know how to store it securely either. And so there were lots of reasons for me not to invest in Bitcoin. And the final kind of nail in the coffin was there were a lot of news articles at the time saying that Bitcoin's being used by criminals. There were reports of banks who would close customers' accounts if they had anything to do with Bitcoin, and even mortgage companies weren't offering loans to people who had found their success with Bitcoin. And so that was the last thing for me, thinking, right, even if I make a bunch of money, I probably wouldn't be able to use it. So for years, I didn't own any Bitcoin, and I didn't want anything to do with it. And I didn't even check the price, I didn't even hear about it. But then something changed. First thing I'd like to say is that this is not financial advice, and I am in no way an expert. I wasn't back then, and even now, I've still only just kind of started learning about all of this stuff, so please don't kind of follow in my footsteps. But my personal experience with Bitcoin is that I heard about it again, it was in the news because the price hit a new all-time high. And that made me think, you know what, this time I'm actually going to learn about it. And I basically came to the conclusion that while right now Bitcoin is not a perfect currency because it fluctuates so much, I think it has plenty of potential to be a good store of value in the future. So lots of people call it digital gold. I'd always heard that there's only ever going to be 21 million, but I didn't understand why that could mean that it's valuable. Not only is there a finite amount of it, but it's decentralized, and that has lots of benefits compared to gold or other stores of value. And it's also easily kind of tradable and divisible. So you don't have to carry gold around with you. You can just carry your digital currency and send off a tiny, tiny fraction of it to whoever you're trading with. And once I learned about this, my first reaction was to regret that I didn't buy lots of Bitcoin 10 years ago. But I realized that if I had have bought it without understanding it, I'm sure I would have just sold. If it either went up a lot or if it went down a lot, I would have instantly sold because I didn't see it as having inherent value. I thought of it just as a chance to kind of double your money. The second thing that changed is that I think it's become a lot easier to learn about Bitcoin, and it's become a lot easier to buy and hold and store Bitcoin as well. And so that just helped me feel a lot more confident about Bitcoin's future, because I can see that people have found better ways to describe what Bitcoin is. It doesn't feel like such a kind of nerdy thing anymore. As it becomes more mainstream, it's become more accessible. And so the fact that I can deposit some money into a Coinbase account, and I can use Coinbase Pro to buy Bitcoin with 0.5% fees, and then transfer it to a cheap little hardware wallet to store my Bitcoin securely, all of that process is much easier than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And that really helped me feel like, okay, now's the time. When Tesla bought a bunch of Bitcoin, that helped me realize, wow, if more companies do this, if more companies decide that it's less risky for them to hold a little bit of Bitcoin than it would be to hold none at all, then we could see Bitcoin's price go up quite significantly. And I wanted to buy Bitcoin before that happened. And the final thing that changed my mind is the market cap of Bitcoin. Initially, I was all thinking about the price and how the price might go up, but this time the current price of Bitcoin wasn't so important to me. But it was worth noting that if I'm getting excited about the idea of blockchain technology, then why should Bitcoin be the one that succeeds? And the thing that helps me not be too scared of competition coming up and a new cryptocurrency taking over Bitcoin's market cap is because Bitcoin has that first mover advantage. It's so far ahead in terms of the number of people who own Bitcoin and how much they own compared to other cryptocurrencies. And so that gives it not only the fame of being the first one and the kind of inherent advertising of lots of people talking about it and it having the longest history, but it also means that the security of the blockchain network is strongest. Because of the way Bitcoin works, essentially it's more secure the more people are using it. And so it has a major advantage over someone who is starting a brand new cryptocurrency today. That said, I do think that there's some potential with Ethereum and smart contracts, and so I do have a little bit of Ethereum, but we'll talk about that another time. So I went from being scared of Bitcoin and not wanting anything to do with it, to now thinking this could be promising, and I think I'd like to buy some Bitcoin. So what did I do? Even though I'm confident in the technology of Bitcoin, and I believe that in the long term, there's a pretty good chance that it will be a valuable asset to hold, I'm still very cautious about it. And I wouldn't have even considered buying Bitcoin if I didn't already have those other investments that are more stable but kind of tend to grow slowly, and a cash emergency fund. So that's the first thing. So after I'd done my research and I was confident enough about Bitcoin, I decided to buy enough Bitcoin until it would make up 1% of my assets. So a few weeks later, after I learned some more about it, I was feeling even more confident about Bitcoin, and conveniently the price had gone down as well. So I got a little discount and bought some more until I had approximately 2% of my assets in Bitcoin. I still don't own like a whole Bitcoin, but the price of one Bitcoin at the time when I did purchase my little piece was first around 40,000, and then a few weeks later I bought some more at a much lower price, and that kind of averaged me out to around £36,000. So that's my average price that I bought in at. So right now I think I'm up about 8 or 10% depending on where Bitcoin is at the time of filming. So it's gone up a little bit, but nothing dramatic, but it's only been a few weeks. So we'll see what happens. So there we go. That's what took me from being scared of Bitcoin and not wanting anything to do with it to now being where I'm very comfortable having 2% of my net worth in Bitcoin. Part of me wants to go 5% or 10%, but I really feel like, you know, even with 2%, I think if the price really skyrockets, then I'll get some exposure to it. And yet, if it tanks down 80%, then, you know, I won't be so gutted. So I think 2% is a really nice balance for me based on how confident I am with Bitcoin and how much kind of risk I'm willing to take. Generally, my whole attitude with finances is that I'm happy to grow my wealth slowly rather than always kind of looking out for the next big thing and then having to check the price of Bitcoin all the time because I'm so worried about it. So that is my personal opinion about Bitcoin. I encourage you, if you're interested, to just research about it. You know, I would never tell anyone to buy Bitcoin or to sell it. For me personally, I'm quite excited about the future of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and so I'm going to hold on to my little tiny bit of Bitcoin for as long as I can. I have no intention of selling it anytime soon. If you'd like to have a conversation about it, let me know in the comments what you think of Bitcoin and whether I'm being too risk averse or whether I'm taking too big of a risk. I'd be curious to hear your point of view. And I'll see you next time.